Hello and welcome to another episode of Politalk. Today we have our interview with our Democratic guest, Jay. Jay, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Jay Ponce. I'm a senior here at CHS. I'm also the student representative for the senior class, and that's it.
All right, thank you. So we're going to start off with a kind of icebreaker question. Who is your favorite U.S. president from history and why?
That's kind of hard because I feel like if we look at the history of the U.S., I don't think very many presidents have been straightforwardly good. But if I had to say my personal favorite, probably going to be Abraham Lincoln. Because he was, not only did he free the slaves, obviously, but he also kept the country together in such difficult times that I think even though almost everyone says their favorite president is Lincoln, I feel like that still isn't giving him enough credit for just how effectively he was able to preserve the Union while half of it was actively trying to leave. But yeah, Lincoln's my favorite. Some other people I really like are FDR, and this will be a bit of an unusual pick, Calvin Coolidge.
Okay, thank you. How would you align yourself politically? And kind of a follow-up, do you feel you can fit into one of the two major political parties?
All right, so politically, I'm a liberal. Just a regular old liberal. I'm not a socialist. I'm not a Marxist, not an anarchist. I am just a regular liberal. So I support policies like we should have loose immigration policies. I think we should have free trade. I support LGBT rights and as well as civil rights for ethnic minorities. That's basically about it. And as for if I align with either party, the answer is in ideology I align very well with the Democratic Party, but in practice I don't, because I feel like the Democratic Party recently has become much less focused on those core issues like civil rights recently, and as a result I've become much less sympathetic to the party as an institution, although I still will support them.
Okay, wonderful. What party, well, we sort of already answered this, what party do you think you can align yourself with better?
Yeah,
the Democrats. Okay.
Democrats.
If you were running for office, what policies would you want to introduce?
Good question. I think this one also depends on the fact that I'm a very strong believer in the idea that the president should have limited powers, which means that, to be fully honest, I probably wouldn't, a lot of the policies that I want probably it wouldn't be legal for me to introduce them as president. But let's say that if I had no limits on my power whatsoever as president, what would I do? I would probably bring back the the student loan forgiveness program. I would bring back Biden's Title IX rules that included sexual orientation and gender identity. I would also have, I would appoint progressive Supreme Court justices because I feel like the court at this point has become far too partisan. And also what I would want to do is I would try to focus a lot on transparency. So I would probably issue an executive order saying that we should use more open source software in the government. So for example, Linux, and we should also move away from things like, we should also use software that more people can audit. So, because I don't think the government should have a monopoly on most of our security software.
Okay, thank you. Are you on social media? And if so, how do you think that affects your view on politics?
Social media. Okay, I don't really use like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. Why say Facebook? Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. I don't really use those very often. I am on them, but I really only go on there when the person I'm trying to talk to I have no other way of contacting them. I do use YouTube a lot, and I also occasionally use Reddit. And my exposure to political content, especially on Reddit, has not been great. Like recently there was this, like with Reddit, you can just go into like a subreddit of a political group, like for example, there's the conservative subreddit, and you can post a link to a news article, for example, and you can give it whatever title you want. Like, remember recently there was that story about the University of Oklahoma student who wrote an essay for a psychology class about gender that was really just like a religious sermon almost. And the comments, depending on the political leanings of the community on Reddit, I could see, it felt like they were framing it very differently. Like some people said, like more left-leaning people always specified that the paper violated the standards, or that it didn't actually have any references. Whereas a lot more right-leaning people would say, I just realized that I'm doing this with my left hand and this with my right hand. The right-leaning people would always frame it as if like this was a violation of her religious rights or something. Like I remember I saw one post on the conservative subreddit that literally said that she was that she got a 0 on the assignment for being Christian, which is not how that happened. And I've also seen this from my side as well, from left-leaning people. Because remember recently the Supreme Court also refused to take a case that would have overturned the Obergefell versus Hodges decision that legalized same-sex marriage. So they tried to some people tried to overturn it. This lady named Kim Davis asked the court to overturn it. The court said, no, we're not going to. But every legal analyst, every legal scholar, every lawyer I could find on the internet agreed that the court was going to do that long before they did, because the petition was just terrible. But all the left-leaning people I saw were saying this would be like, that this was the end of same-sex marriage. And because of the fact that I mentioned earlier I thought the court is too partisan, but they generally don't think that. They think the court is partisan, but they often tend to think that the court always has been partisan, and there's no way the court ever acts in any situation that in any way that isn't partisan. So basically, they assumed the court would, of course, grant the petition and overturn Obergefell versus Hodges. And even after they denied it, they still said, yeah, they're only doing this because of the midterms, or, oh, they're going to take the case anyway, which is not a thing that can happen. Also, I feel like social media it has really tainted my understanding of politics in general. That's my answer there.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so moving on to some more party questions. What are some other things you can agree with the opposite party, being the Republicans, about?
So I'm going to answer this in two ways. Firstly, what I can agree with the current Republican Party about. I think the Epstein files should be released. I also support getting rid of the penny. And I think that I can't really think of many things I agree with the current Republican Party about, because ever since 2016 they've become less of a conservative party and more of a Trumpist party. So some things that I would agree with the old Republican Party on. I support free trade. So I think that tariffs, for example, are bad, which a lot of Republicans used to believe, but now it's apparently conservative to support unnecessary restrictions on trade. So yeah, I support free trade. I think that generally speaking, we should have some sort of capitalism, although I disagree with Republicans on the kind of capitalism. And finally, I think that I disagree with not really. The final thing I want to point out is that I'm really concerned about the expansion of the federal government. I think that the federal government should be very limited in its power. That used to be a very popular conservative talking point. Now it has become less so, but that is still a core belief that I have. That's why I had Calvin Coolidge as one of my favorite presidents.
Yeah. All right. Sort of a more broad political question. How much should teens be thinking about politics? And sort of a offshoot of that, is there really a way to avoid political discussions?
I have a lot of experience with this question because for example, because I'm in a lot of left-leaning spaces, and one common slogan there, I guess, is that if you don't think about politics constantly, then that means you're privileged because you don't have to think about politics. Like, the idea is, well, maybe a white cisgender male will have to think about politics less than a trans person or a black person or a woman, on the grounds that their rights are more politically questioned. And I don't agree with this framing. I do agree that the rights are being questioned, but I don't agree that we therefore need to constantly be thinking about politics, because I think that everyone should be civically informed, including teens, especially teens actually, because they're of the age just before they'll be able to vote. I think everyone should understand what's going on politically. Everyone should know about all the main political figures, and they should know about any candidates in any upcoming elections they have. But you don't have to be constantly thinking about, oh my God, who's going to win this next election. Although what I will say, I do kind of agree with the assertion that it's kind of hard to completely get out of politics, because in a way, everything is, because politics is just the study of how we should organize society. So if you're going to be anti-political, is that not in and of itself a political statement? So I don't think you can fully avoid politics, but I don't think that we have to be so focused on partisanship over and over again. That's most of the reason why I came on the show in the first place.
All right, thank you. So actually, you led right into my next question. Is the two-party system effective in your opinion? And if not, how could we work to change it?
First question you asked, no, it is not effective. The two-party system is terrible. That is actually another thing that I can agree with both parties on. Because basically everyone agrees that the two-party system is terrible. I think the solution is that we should, because the current voting system we use is called first past the post. Basically that's where you, like on the ballot, you vote for one candidate, and that's it. You don't get to vote for multiple candidates or ranked candidates. I think the solution to a two-party system is proportional representation. So I think it really comes down to Congress, not really the president, because in Congress, what we should do is we should make it so that the amount of seats that a party has in Congress is directly proportional to the percentage of the vote that it got. So here, Democrats and Republicans would still be dominant, but you could have at least a few libertarians, a few Greens, a few American taxpayers, a few communists in the House and in the Senate. So I think that we need to do that in order to reduce our two-party system. And I also think that we should be more open to people who don't agree with either progressivism or conservatism. I think that we should platform more libertarians, more socialists. And even though I disagree with those two views, I think that people understanding them is very important, because that will help us undermine the incredible problems that the two-party system has caused.
All right, thank you. So more about social media, but specifically political debates. How does the way political debates are presented on social media affect polarization?
Okay, it makes it a lot worse, because debates on social media, because really debates in general politically are not about policy, they're about vibes. So for example, if you look at the 2024 US presidential debate, I can't think of a single moment in that debate where they actually talked about genuine policy. It was mostly just the person saying the other person was going to ruin the country, and concepts of a plan, all of that. I feel like there wasn't really any genuine political discussion. I feel like the culture of debates in actual politics, like in real elections, has kind of caused the debate culture online to be a lot worse. Because I've been in a lot of political debates online, and for the most part, it's just who can yell more Constitution references. Because when you make a post on social media saying a political view, basically everyone is going to interpret that as, oh my God, I have to prove this person wrong, and with facts and logic. And that is not conducive. That approach is not conducive to healthy debate, because it will just result in people talking past each other And I feel like that was largely caused by our shift away from policy-focused debates in national politics, such that now it's impossible to have any valid political discussion on the internet.
All right. We're going to wrap it up with one more sort of more lighthearted question.
Okay.
Who is your political role model other than a president, and why?
John Rawls. So John Rawls, it was this American political philosopher from the mid to late 20th century, and he really encompasses my views very well. Basically, his idea is that we should look at policies based on if we would be willing to live under them in a society where we don't know who we are. We don't know if we're going to be white or black or straight or gay or cis or trans or conservative or progressive. We don't know. We also don't know our conception of the good life. We don't know what we value. So the idea is that if we lived in a world where we don't know who we're going to be, we're going to want people to have equal opportunity. Because if you're going to, let's say that you want to take a chance, and you're going to be like, okay, well, I'm probably going to be a rich person, so let's make rich people more important politically. But the thing is, you're going to eventually end up as a poor person, and that means that you're going to be terrible. You're going to be terribly off instead of as opposed to well off because of your irrational decision. So a rational person would want to produce the best possible worst case scenario. So basically, they make it so that you can have some inequality, because occasionally if we have rich people, then we can tax them, and then we can use that money to help out the less advantaged. However, any inequality that is going to be present has to be designed such that it does benefit the least advantaged in society. And also, in this original position, as he called it, where you don't know who you're going to be, you'd also want to make sure that everyone has equal rights. Because basically, if you're going to, because once again, if you're willing to gamble, then you might either end up in an aristocrat or a poor feudal peasant with no rights and no money. So you're going to want everyone to have equal rights, and you're also going to want any inequality to be to the benefit of the least advantaged. So that's John Rawls in a nutshell. I first was exposed to him through a musical, and it was a great musical. I recommend it. It's called A Theory of Justice, the musical. But basically, he has been my political role model ever since. I think he is one of the greatest thinkers in American history. So that is it.